Thanks, Adam, and thanks everyone for having me here today. As I said, I've been with Shell for about 15 years now. What I really wanted to do in today's session is to set up the next 2 days. I'll give you the perspectives of an operator. It's not the only perspective, which I'm very conscious of, but I was hoping to spend about 5 to 10 minutes where I'll talk you through the learnings that we've had in the last few years, and also I wanted to really kind of show you firsthand that the types of discussions we're having internally. What I hope you'll see is, while a lot of my material is upstream focused, it's equally applicable through the value chain. And what I also hope to leave you with is just how digital twin is really starting to be one of the key enablers that we see in the journey going forward. You'll have to bear with me as I've chosen to drive my own slides today. First one, those that have seen Shell presentations, you'll probably smile at this, but I just wanted to reiterate, please don't go making any investment decisions based on what you see here today. Hopefully I'll be sharing some really good insights, but still they're not predictions of the future. What I thought would be really key to start with, we talk a lot about how digital and data can help the industry, but I think before we jump into that, I think I want to just recognize that as a world and an industry, we're going through a huge rapid change at the moment. We at Shell believe that the energy transition and digitalization are going to be two of the big mega trends that really shape our world and the energy system. But we also can't ignore that the huge human tragedy and the economic impact that COVID is happening at the moment. And again, I think we'll all on the line realize that it has had a huge influence on how we're thinking about our daily lives. But from a business perspective, it's also helping us reimagine what work looks like in the workplace. And I can say firsthand from my own role, it's definitely accelerated the way we're trying to use and deploy digital. So although it's been a hugely challenging time for all, it is giving us a few sort of silver linings from a business perspective to try to come out of this stronger. From a Shell strategy perspective, again, my intent is not to go through kind of the full Shell strategy, but what I do want to leave you with from this slide is to say that when we look at introducing digital and data technology in Shell, it's all about linking back to our purpose as a business. We're not looking to try to deploy digital just for the sake of digital sake. And that's something that we're trying to challenge ourselves consistently. If I think about what is unique to digital, I think one of the key things for me personally is it's really relevant through the whole value chain. And again, I won't go through kind of the full details of this slide, but what I do want to say is that currently what I've personally experienced in the last few years is we're becoming very strong, but both as a company, but also I see our competitors doing the same thing, our partners and also the vendors that we work with. We're developing some really world-class point solutions that help reservoir engineers, that help WRFM experts, that help operations people optimize. We're also developing technology that can help things like greenhouse gas emissions. So we have the building blocks. What I think we're seeing now is an evolution where we're really starting to talk about how do we link those together and really help data flow through the value chain. It's easy to say that, but it's difficult, as you'll see both in the rest of my keynote and the next couple of days. I think that's a real challenge that we need to try to figure out how we can have more of an impact as an industry. When I talk about data, I think it's easy to get lost in the numbers. And I think I often try to almost pinch myself because some of the numbers that you're seeing are staggering. We talk about 1.3 trillion rows of data that we've ingested in our data lakes. Even 3-4 years ago, that is just, it wouldn't have been possible. And we're also now monitoring over 6,000 pieces of kit real time across our upstream, downstream, and integrated gas businesses. And we've also enabled over 5,000 workers now on the front line with iPads and what we call our connected worker program. So this is happening. It's happening fast. I think to a point where we're almost having to hold ourselves back in certain places, because I think, like you've all experienced, I'm sure the technology is moving quicker than we as a company can often catch up with, which is why I think that the collaboration in this space is going to be key, and which I'll touch on a bit later on. But what I hope you take from this is momentum is building. We need to do more, and I think as we go forward, the challenge will be how do we integrate and leverage data in a more and more coherent fashion. As we start to kind of move into data specifically, I think, again, sharing that the stats on data can be impressive, and it's easy for me to keep saying, well, we're doing a great job, but I also wanted to share this because this is a day in the life of what data looks like. And I think as you'll go through the presentation in the next couple of days, I think you'll start to see how digital twin in particular, but also many other technologies that we're seeing can really help this landscape. And I like to show this, one, because it shows a bit of the complexity of how our data flows through various systems, historical systems, new solutions that we see. But for me, this is also an insight on what our frontline staff experience day to day. And so for me, this is about how do we get the right data in the hands of the staff at the right time so that we can empower them to make better decisions in a safe manner. And it's a challenge, but I think even in the last few years, we've seen that this landscape hugely being simplified. And again, I think that's one of the real reasons why I'm personally passionate about the digital twin technology. Because I think if we deploy it thoughtfully, in a conscious way, the images you can see on the screen can be hugely simplified. I don't see digital twin kind of replacing lots of these systems that you see here, but it is a real integration tool that can help simplify the life of the end users. And that's what brings me on to some discussions on what does it really take. So if I look around our experiences in digital space in Shell, and those of you that have heard me talk before, this may be a familiar slide, but I think we continually update this simple slide because we are learning as we go in this space, and I think that it's important to be humble about that. The items on the top of this slide, I think, give a bit of an idea of what are we seeing that the main enablers. And two things for me jump out on these. One is that the data really does enable AI. You'll hear it in every type of conference, every speech in the next couple of days, I'm sure that data is king. I think having the foundations in place, whether it's the governance around data, the common master data management system, the definitions in place, I can't underestimate how important that is in order to unlock things like digital twin. But that flips me to the other side of the enablement. This is also just as much about people and the way we work. It's as much about a cultural journey that we're experiencing as it is a technology journey. It's about leadership, which again, I'll cover in a video that I'll show you a bit later on. It's a challenge to how we lead as business leaders. It's a challenge on our culture in terms of failing fast, working agile. Big organizations like Shell, we're very proud of being innovative and creative, but we're also a large bureaucratic company in places. And so actually having that agile mindset is a challenge. And it's also a challenge to have access to the right talent and to nurture that talent in the right way. But I think we've made good strides. I think the industry as a whole is definitely making good strides. But I would think I'd sort of challenge you as you go through the next couple of days of discussions, think about what you're hearing, how it's going to enable data, how it's going to enable the cultural change that we're seeking. But also challenge yourself on how is it going to challenge some of the dilemmas that you see, which again are on the bottom of this. We often kind of coin the phrase data isn't sexy, but this is more about how do you get people to want to spend the time to get the right data in the right locations in order to enable all this great technology. Again, it links to our culture, it links to a bit of discipline, but it's that discipline needed to get all of the other creative stuff that is more appealing to many. The other points on here, again, strikes really hard at our culture. So failing fast versus having too many initiatives. When I came into my role just under a couple of years ago, we had over 1,800 initiatives across Upstream. On a low, we're a large company. Clearly, we needed to say that we need to almost pause. Where are those initiatives really having the impact to help us focus a bit more? Top down versus bottoms up is also another great one that we have continual discussions on, and I'm sure will be touched upon in the next couple of days. So this is more about what do you drive globally, centrally, almost as a mandated replication. And we found that the real foundational elements are where we've driven consistency, but we've equally tried to give freedom in terms of which types of use cases the end users really feel benefiting. So again, that's a constant struggle. And that also links into the replication. So again, we've tried different approaches. I think the balance is somewhere in the middle, but so how much do you replicate blindly versus how much do you focus in on your big assets? And again, that's a constant and balance, both of resourcing and spend. And the final thing, which I think I'm most passionate about, and again, we'll come on to the partnership piece in a second, is I personally believe in how we're shaping the upstream part in Shell. Digital has to change the way we work. It's not good enough anymore just to say we give tools to individuals. Digital is has the potential to be such a groundbreaking innovation. We can fundamentally change how we work, how we leverage our day-to-day activities in processes that, for many cases, haven't changed for 40 years. And so it really does feel like a once-in-a-generational type of opportunity. And I think digital twin technology is one of those few technologies that, if positioned right and leveraged right, can really be the game changer. Although it's a game changer, we can't do it alone. And when I say alone, I mean Shell, but I'd also kind of suggest that there isn't a single company represented on this call that can do it alone. And so how do we have the right partnership and collaboration in this space is going to be a challenge. I think I've clearly seen some good partnerships arising. I think as an industry, we definitely need to be clear where we can collaborate, where we compete, and therefore clearly that there are some legal red lines that we can't cross. But where that collaboration is possible, how do we standardize and co-innovate? And so at Shell, we've joined and been part of sort of founding members of a number of global initiatives. OSDU, one of the key initiatives around how do we kind of really get global standardization for subsurface data, and a more recently started one, the Open AI Energy Initiative, which is more how do we kind of create an ecosystem of AI solutions to help the energy industry and bring more solutions to the market. These are things that, again, we're actively encouraging. We believe that the collaboration in the space and creating market standards is a better way overall to improve and get the most out of this technology as an industry. And I'm really encouraged and pleased if I look at the participants, both on the panels and also people that have joined. I think it's testament to this collaboration already forming. We have our competitors on the line, which again, we can talk openly about these type of initiatives. We have our partners in the joint ventures. We have NOCs, but we also have a lot of our vendors and close partners, be it C3, Baker Hughes, Microsoft, Amazon, Kongsberg. These are all companies that we're actively working with. And when it comes to digital twin, I'm personally really excited about emerging discussions that we're seeing around how do we get the best out of AI technology and digital twin technology to really kind of leverage two, again, potentially kind of groundbreaking technologies together. So again, a personal thanks to C3 and Kongsberg for actually being able and willing to work together in that space. Really promising, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that comes. So that's really what I wanted to say, at least for my spoken part. If I think about how to kind of summarize, I've talked a bit about kind of the importance of partnership, but I think for me that there are four big messages I'd like you to take away. One is really be outcome focused and think how can digital work end to end? How can it help data move from an end to end workflow perspective? Two, it's about getting data in the right hands of our staff at the right time so they can make better decisions. If it doesn't do that, then really what are we trying to deploy the technology for? Third, around partnerships and collaboration. I see it as a must in this space. I think we need to be more humble as an operator, and I think we're doing what we can on that. And I hope others in the industry will recognize the benefit of collaboration as well. And fourth is around the technology. So technology is vital. I think digital twin will be the game changer that it has a promise to be, but that can't happen in a technological bubble. It has to be linking to how it's going to change the way people work, how we improve the capability within organizations like Shell. And it really is a case of culture beating strategy in this case. With that, I'd like to pause. I have a 5-minute video that I'd like to share, and then we can pass it on to Q&A. Thanks.
A leaner and more focused upstream business will require a clear digital strategy in our core positions to achieve our goals and to remain competitive. Digital will be a key part of addressing frontline pain points and enhancing the day-to-day experiences of our staff. Data will be at the heart of this change, enabling integration between the different aspects of business process and driving simplification. The driver for digital is commercial necessity. Increased volumes of data drive the potential for improved decision-making, lower costs, and higher returns. Most importantly, new digitally enabled workflows will replace our traditional ways of working. For hydrocarbon assessment workflows, AI will drastically reduce the time needed to process seismic data. AI will accelerate the process of estimating recoverable resources, testing and comparing development concepts, and driving decisions informed by a fully characterized spectrum of uncertainties. AI will optimize well placement and well plans to maximize value and avoid risks identified from past and external experience. For resource maturation workflows, simulation and optimization approaches will enable optimal field development plans as well as facility designs and project plans to be identified. Modular approaches using standard engineering packages will accelerate concept selection, reduce costs, and accelerate delivery. In the project phase, mixed reality will allow continuous progress assessment. For production workflows, most operations will be semi-automated, managed largely remotely from surveillance centers. AI will continually screen the processes, identifying anomalies and drift from modeled optimal behavior. Advanced satellite technology in conjunction with drones and advanced sensors will provide real-time information about greenhouse gas emissions, enabling industry-leading performance. Issues such as corrosion are quantified, compared with processes and structural criticality, and prioritized for action. The whole production process is optimized for the market, and automatic adjustments to volumes are made on the basis of market conditions. Whilst all this may sound far-fetched, most of the examples above are drawn from real-life Shell digital projects that are already delivering value. In Shell Upstream, we expect to see the emergence of common data foundations, driven by the emergence of new industry standards for data management and data exchange. The digital twin will become the centerpiece of the asset, enabling everything from early-stage concept selection through simulation to production optimization and predictive maintenance. This world is emerging quickly. It's not realistic for us to assume that we can develop these solutions ahead of the market through our own in-house projects. We will need to become educated buyers of capabilities. In short, this is all about speed. Learning as quickly as we can to transform as quickly as we can. We need to have a data-centric workforce, a workforce willing to adapt and to try new things, whilst also putting safety and data security first. A workforce which makes decisions based on data rather than gut instinct. A workforce empowered through self-service digital tools and world-class training. And all this will take leadership. Strong, digitally savvy senior leaders who understand this art of the possible and who are able to lead the cultural change from the front. Leaders who inspire the younger generations and expect digital capabilities as table stakes, and who know how to lead the integrated, agile, digital natural teams that will be part of Shell's energy transition. It will involve taking tough decisions, being clear on our digital foundations, stopping projects that move too slowly or that no longer align with our principles. It will also mean developing new partnerships. It will require learning how to spin up and work in natural teams across traditional business line. It will also take a new spirit of humility with our external partners. This is hard work. It's not easy. Digital technology requires significant investment, much of which is foundational. But if we want to succeed in powering progress, it is what we have to do. If we're serious, the time to act is now.
Hello, Lee. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thank you very much for a brilliant keynote, absolutely brilliant keynote. And it's a really excellent way to start this event because you actually went quite deep into not just the actual twin, but also what goes around building a twin. So I found two things you mentioned very interesting. Firstly, I think it was at the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned don't do digital for the sake of digital. And I think that is a very good point to make because a lot of people in the industry are probably doing that for the sake of doing that. So, and having a plan around it. So for me, that was really interesting. You said that at the beginning, and also obviously about agile adoption. I think people, and it probably will be mentioned quite a lot during this event. It's how management will be redefined because there will be a seismic shift in terms of how people are managed. And I think what you mentioned in your keynote referenced that a lot. So I'll be interested to know more about that. So just a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, Lee.
Sure.
You mentioned digital twin will be the centerpiece of the asset, which is a very, very nice way to present it. How are you at Shell going about achieving that in particular?
Yeah, so I think short answer is we don't have the full answer yet. But so I think we're still on the early days. I think we've we took our time to pilot the technology. So that's our first kind of step from last year and the previous year, and we made a strategic partnership with Kongsberg, who are on the line today, on the integration visualization space, and we've had another collaboration with Aviva for engineering and data warehouse. So I think the first step is to actually make sure that our foundations are right, like I mentioned. In terms of how we're embedding it going forward, so in the operational phase, we have a global program, and that's really making sure that we have some consistency across our operating assets. And so actually a colleague of mine, Stefan, will join us later, and he's heading up to that global program. And so really the technology foundations are there. How we're then taking it into the assets is that we, in each of our big assets, we actually have kind of people who are managing the broader business transformation. And so we're injecting digital twin as part of that transformation directly. So it doesn't just become a technology play, but it's actually more of the ways of working. Early days, but it's promising. I mean, we've had a really good success in Norway recently, and other examples in places like Qatar and in Australia. They're moving quickly.
Yeah, I was going to mention Qatar actually, because of the conversation I've had with some of your colleagues as well. You talked about integrating digital solutions for workflow, or ET value creating being key. Can you say, or can you see how digital twin will play a key role in that, or what role will it play in that as well?
Yeah, so I think so two ways. One is just the visualization across typical corporate silos. So whether it's the project to asset handover, whether it's our ops guys with our logistics people. So it's making sure that there's almost one source of the truth, and helping people who do sit in those different silos and able to kind of see the same thing and act upon the same data. Whereas right now, whether we like it or not, that there's still way too many Excel spreadsheets, that there's pivot tables, that there's dozens of different systems. Again, it's that seamless integration. And I think going forward, I hope that, again, within Shell, we've started our digital twin efforts mainly in the operate phase, but you can see it starting to move kind of further upstream in the project execution phase, in the project planning, and in the general HCM space. So I expect that to be kind of moving over time.
Oh, thanks for that, Lee. One last question, because we're going to talk a lot about the positive impact of a digital twin and it has on a company, but obviously it comes with risk, it comes with problems and issues going forward. So what are the biggest risks do you see going forward? Because obviously as technology evolves, new threats will come on board as well. So in your eyes, what do you see in the context of broader digital transformation? What will be the risk going forward?
Yes, so I mean, obviously the obvious one is cybersecurity. So it's something that we talk a lot about in Shell, and I think we always have to make sure that anything we do in this space is compliant and safe and secure. But I think from a personal perspective, I think that the biggest challenge I have is actually just staying at the same pace as technology. Many times, especially large companies like Shell, it does take us longer to deploy this types of technology, and just as we're getting to the point where we're actually able to, that then new technology kicks in and we're outdated. And so for me, that's why I'm so adamant on the partnership needs to be key. I think we need to make sure that we listen just as much to our partners as our own internal experts on this, to say, well, how do we actually mature this and stay agile for the next couple of years? And then the final thing I'd say, which again is it's both a bugbear and a great opportunity of mine, is as we deploy these things, I think really hoping to get the support of vendors, partners, suppliers to always think that we as an integrated type of company, we have to start to integrate these solutions as well. And so as much as possible, where we pick solutions that can talk to each other through APIs or direct connections, it's going to be important for us.